Good morning. This is Chief Larry Giddens with the Lakeland Police Department. Earlier this evening, on July 11th at approximately 7:09 p.m., the Lakeland Police Department responded to an armed carjacking in the 1300 block of East Lemon Street. The victim of the carjacking was sitting in his vehicle when he was approached by the suspect. The suspect was armed with a handgun and demanded his vehicle. This incident was also witnessed by another gentleman that we are interviewing at the present time. At about 12:43 a.m., Officer Alex Wethwich with the Lakeland Police Department observed the vehicle. He observed him in the vicinity of Providence Road at Interstate, which is located right behind me. As Officer Wethwich turned his vehicle around, the suspect began to flee from him. He entered into this field that's located directly behind me. You can see the vehicle that he was driving. That's the vehicle that was carjacked. It became disabled in this field. The suspect exited the vehicle and began running. At that point, Officer Wethwich remained in his vehicle and continued to pursue the suspect, who is running on foot in a westerly direction, which is behind us toward these businesses. As the foot chase continued, Officer Wethwich exited his vehicle and gave chase on foot. At that point, somewhere in that time, the suspect began firing at our officer. The officer at the time was armed with his taser. He dropped the taser and armed himself with his firearm and returned fire, striking the suspect once in the lower left leg. The suspect went down. Our officers were able to take the suspect into custody and immediately began to give him first aid. The suspect was transported to a local hospital where he is being treated for a gunshot wound. The suspect involved in this case, his name is Therese Lafayette Colston. He is a black male, and he is 28 years of age. Colston is out of Tampa. We know that he is a convicted felon, and he currently is under an injunction for protection that was issued to him in 2016, so he should not have been armed with the firearm that he shot at our officers. And I'll take any questions that you have.
Any injury to that officer?
Yes, ma'am. He was slightly injured. He has injuries to his left arm and also to his forehead. We're not sure at this point exactly what caused those injuries. They're minor, but they are injuries that occurred during this incident.
Do you think the officer is lucky this morning?
I think that officers, when they find themselves in these situations, I think that there is a bit of luck that comes into it, but I also think that has to do with our training and the courage and the discipline that these officers have is probably what protected him. He used good officer safety tactics. But this is a dangerous profession.
How many shots were fired?
We're not sure. We know that the suspect fired at our officer first, and then our officer returned effective fire. And we'll be getting that information as the morning progresses.
Chief, describe the exchange initially on Lemon Street between the victim and this armed carjacker. Was this a violent exchange? Was there a fight? Did he produce that firearm there and have a forcible situation? What did your officer know when he spotted this vehicle about the suspect?
We knew the suspect, the description of the suspect. We knew what kind of vehicle he was driving because we had interviewed the victim and the witness there by the officer that responded initially. It was violent. The suspect approached, pointed the handgun at the victim, demanded that he exited the vehicle, which the victim did, and then he took off in the vehicle.
How long was the chase here in this area before the vehicle was disabled?
I don't think it was really a chase. Actually, the officer observed the vehicle. He was actually responding to another call. He turned around on it. Apparently, the suspect saw that. He entered into this field just to the east of us. It appears that both his front tires are flat. So at this point, the facts as we know them at this point, we believe that he flattened his tires as he came across the curbing there. He lost traction in the field, it became disabled, and then he got out and took off running on foot.
What's the distance from where the carjacking happened to right here? How far are we talking?
The carjacking, that actually happened on Lemon Street, which is probably about 10 miles from here, south of here.
For people who are going to end up commuting to work in probably the next hour or two, what street should they avoid as your officers conduct this investigation?
No, the roadways are opened up right now. We're going to be able to get people in and out of work and to anything that they need to on Interstate Drive. So the roadways are mostly open, yes, ma'am.
And in terms of protocol, this officer was solo chasing this suspect?
Well, you know, that's unfortunate, but that's how that happened. The officer just observed the vehicle, being observant, doing his job. He flipped around on him. The suspect obviously realized that, and then the officer did his job. We had other officers responding, he came on the radio, began to say that he was behind this carjacking suspect, and our officers began coming into the area. But this stuff rapidly unfolds.
Have you had a chance to talk to the officer, and if so, do you know how he's doing mentally?
Yeah, I sure did. I came out earlier this morning. I was here slightly after I got the call. I talked with Alex, and he seems to be in good spirits. Obviously, he'll be placed on administrative leave. That's protocol for anybody involved in a lethal force incident, and he seems to be doing fine.
Was procedure followed here this morning?
In my opinion, yes, sir. It appears from the preliminarily what we're looking at right now that our policies were followed. This was a violent confrontation where a citizen could have lost their lives. We don't know how many people were unnecessarily endangered by the suspect's actions, firing at an officer back toward a busy road. Our officer was lucky, as you talked about this morning, and we're thankful that he wasn't injured any further.
You said the suspect is out of Tampa. Do we know why he was in Lakeland, why he was in this neighborhood last night?
No, sir. After we get a chance, after he's treated at the local hospital, we will be able to hopefully interview him and find out more information from him.
And at this point, do you have any details on charges? I know I asked you that earlier.
No, sir. What we're going to wait for is for the officer to be interviewed, for our detectives to confer with the state attorney's office, and then we'll make the appropriate charges.